As more manufacturers of cars keep jumping onto the bandwagon of a full electric vehicles, let me tell you why it's not a good idea to have an electric vehicle. One being right now, it's way too cold in Colorado. It just snowed like yesterday, a ton of snow. I think about 5 inches of snow pretty much, and it's very, very cold. That's why in this video you can see my breath. And let me tell you something with these electric vehicles in the cold. One, they're very sensitive to the cold. So basically, you're using a lot of electricity in an electric vehicle because, well, yeah, because you're generating a lot of electricity, and that lowers your range into an electric vehicle compared to a gas car. I mean, you're still getting bad range with a gas powered car because it's burning a lot of fuel, but it's electricity. It's not like gasoline that goes through the piston during the combustion because it gets hotter and hotter during combustion. But electric vehicles, it's pure electricity because an electric vehicle does not obviously have an engine. Basically, it's just one full battery, and it's eating up a lot of electricity. It's using all that stuff to power the core of the heater core. So basically, you're using a lot of electricity. That's why electric vehicles do not sustain cold as much as these gas-powered vehicles. Gas-powered vehicles handle the cold a lot better because of combustion. Basically, that's kind of how the engine keeps warming up. That's why you charge the actual battery that's inside a gas-powered car. Well, you're basically, yeah, I mean, you're eating up a lot of the electricity that's in a car battery, basically, because it's a lot of amps and all that stuff that you have on, and it's all that heat, basically. But like I said, that's why electric vehicles are not sustained for cold weather. Number two, more manufacturers are building electric vehicles and jumping onto the bandwagon, which is not giving enough time to say, you know, look, we are not jumping onto this bandwagon right now because it's not efficient enough for us to to manufacture these electric vehicles on the road. Number two leads to emission standards plus the infrastructure. So basically, California and Texas, Florida, they have strict emission laws in some parts. Basically, what it means that it's a smog test. Basically, it detects how much pollution or smog it collects in the vehicle, and basically, if you have a bad catalytic converter or bad pipes or anything like that, like a crack in the engine block, much my grandpa's 2002 Toyota Camry has a cracked engine block, and I don't know how that's still running. It has only about 200 something thousand miles. Basically, what happened was my uncle did not properly do the oil change like you usually do. Basically, you either flooded the engine or did not put oil in the engine after doing an oil change. Basically, it uses up a lot of heat and pressure. All that pressure itself cracks the engine block, leading to other problems besides a cracked engine block. It can lead to blowing head gaskets as well. So basically, not cars are all perfect because you have to do a lot of maintenance. If you do maintenance wrong, you're obviously going to have a lot of problems in your engine. But going all the way back to electric vehicles, I'm kind of getting off topic here. Number one is being the strict emission standards. Most of the states, all 40 states, have zero to no emission standards, but only leaving the rest to having strict emission standards. And that's collecting all that smog. So if you have a bad problem with your Cadillac converter, it's not going to pass the emission standard. And that's where people get new cars because they don't want to keep their vehicle because they have to spend a lot of money on emissions for it to not to pass. That's why California in 2035 is actually banning the sale of gasoline powered vehicles for electric vehicles, that's the dumbest thing ever. Basically, I mean, we have the freedom to drive gasoline powered vehicles. I mean, who cares? Because our gasoline is basically synthetic, which is made out of corn and all the byproducts, basically. Oil, too. Basically, oil, I mean, we're having an oil shortage, but this is like the 1970s when, oil was getting depleted. No one was mining for oil. That was back in the 70s. So basically, we're seeing what's happening now with the gas shortage. Basically, is what's happening in the 70s. So basically, we switched to synthetic, which by using corn and other stuff to make gasoline or fuel for our gas-powered vehicles. And that's kind of leading to infrastructure. See, the infrastructure itself right now, we have cracked roads, roads filled with potholes. Why would you put an electric vehicle right now if it's going to run over a lot of potholes? And basically, it's not the same tires that a gas-powered vehicle has. Basically, because it has to sustain all that weight for a battery, basically. So it's a different style of tire to withstand an electric vehicle tire for an electric vehicle itself. Basically, fixing the roads is something very important because you don't want an electric vehicle running over potholes and destroying your tire, and that's going to lower your range. That too, with the power grid. More examples of this power grid thing. So imagine states like Wyoming, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, mostly the Midwest, which is very empty. There's hardly anything in there except for the sprawling grassland or plains out there. But there's states that have nothing at all. So basically, when you're putting superchargers, where are you going to put these superchargers? Not a lot of places have superchargers and don't have enough power grid to keep it withstanding for electric vehicles to keep running. So basically, putting electric vehicles on the road right now is kind of a bad idea for right now because, it's using a lot of electricity when you're charging a battery, basically overriding the power grid, which it's not going to hold because too much electricity, basically. It's using a lot of watts of electricity to charge up an electric vehicle, and it charges a lot more to charge, but not a lot of places have charging stations. So basically, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and your car is down at 0%, which it should not be at 0%, so basically there's a limit to when you charge it, about 20%. Basically, I lost my train of thought. Basically, not a lot of places have charging stations. Basically, if your gasoline-powered car just runs low, you can call a tow truck and they can give you a jerry can of gas and they just put gas into the vehicle. That's it. But we're in an electric vehicle where you're going to go out and then all your charge is all gone. Basically, you're going to be stranded there. No one's going to have electric charging stations. No one's going to have outlet plugs out there. You're just going to be stuck in the middle of nowhere on the side of the road, miserable because there's no charging stations. That's the one thing with this infrastructure is when there's not enough charging stations. I know that they're building charging stations right now, but you're overriding the power grid that powers the cities that keeps them going. That's kind of overriding the power grid by adding more and more charging stations, and that leads to other problems. So, and number 3 being, I forget, let's see. That's pretty much the most important things, mostly because of the infrastructure when putting charger stations. The emission standards are, because Wyoming also is thinking about banning the sales of electric vehicles because there's nothing in Wyoming, and that can override the power grid of these cities like Cheyenne, Casper, Gillette, Laramie. Most of these places have a stronger power grid compared to, let's say, cities of Denver or let's say cities like Colorado Springs around that area. It's a weaker power grid. So basically pushing electric vehicles is not a good idea because it's not going to withstand the power grid. Number 3 is also being, the cost too, because the cost is something important. Why would you spend over $100,000 on an electric vehicle when you spend like $40,000? Because the average car prices right now for these gas-powered vehicles, it's basically about $46,000. For an electric vehicle, Tesla's cutting down their prices of vehicles, but they're still about over $100,000. But you can buy a new 2024 Nissan GT-R for that same price, $116,000. But you spend a ton of money, $100,000 on an electric vehicle, basically to pay more and more money on new softwares. Well, how much are you going to spend a lot of money on buying another car because it's really out of its software? That's why I say don't buy electric vehicles now and wait a few years in the future, about 2050, something like that, because it's going way too fast, and the power grid can't even hold all these electric vehicles at once. So that's basically what this video is trying to say is, are electric vehicles worth it for right now, or do you have to wait in the future? So basically what I say is wait for the future where you're going to get a full, we're going to change the power grid, we're going to change the infrastructure, we're going to do all that stuff to maintain that, and how we're going to make electric vehicles have more range, more battery power, how we're going to change like lithium ions, because lithium ions, they tend to use up a lot of electricity because, it's powering up the entire battery cell. Also, you see most of them catch on fires, and one cell goes, and then the entire thing spreads. Basically, they burn out pretty fast, but, it still takes hundreds of thousands of gallons of water to really put out a electric vehicle's fire, basically, compared to, let's say, 50,000 gallons for a gas-fired car to take it out. So basically, that's what I'm trying to say. Is electric vehicles worth it or not for right now in 2023? Like I said, the answer is no. Because, like I said, it lists all that stuff, the infrastructure, change the infrastructure, like how, yeah. Anyway, so thank you guys so much for watching this video. It's burning daylight right now, so that's a perfect timing. So if you guys would like to see more videos of me just talking about cars or me ranting anything about these different car manufacturers like Kias, let me know in the comments down below which videos you want me to see. Comment down below your opinions on what electric vehicles in the future are electric vehicles worth it in the future, or something like that. Let me know your opinions. I like to heart your comments, like your comments. Like I said, comment down below your opinion on how electric vehicles are good or bad, or should they start working in the future than compared to these electric vehicles today. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.